not the businesses, the
Right.
things that are
It's really hard to even want to spend your money. I mean, buy local because there's even limited options in buying local.
Well,
So,
I know like I said, they're trying and everything, and I know it's you have to start over when they had to get rid of their whole council and everything else, and just adding a Walmart is not considered to be considered adding new business or anything else like anything
those
like that.
aren't livable wages.
Correct.
It's not a good, I guess, a good standard of living. There's still people that are struggling to pay their bills and live comfortably.
Well, I think of it as as you said before, if you spent all your infrastructure on putting together just going to housing and asking for none of these industries to come here, how can you keep the students to even come to this place to say, I want to come back here? Well, no, that means I got to drive to either San Diego or that place called Simi Valley or something like that.
And that's actually been one of the difficulties for myself and at least my husband. I mean, even though I was raised in this community, to go away to Chicago and live there for 6 years, and then come back, it is a different community. And Chicago is a big city, and of course it has a lot of history, but there was art and there was culture and there was music and there was and in this particular community it's not. I mean, there's art and there's culture and there's
very small scale.
Yes, and it's particular to serve a certain population within the community.
That's a nice way to say it. Okay,
and
but
it doesn't serve the needs of everybody in the community.
So I can suggest that you're talking about the younger group.
Yes.
And keeping them busy and keeping them interested in doing something, wanting to stay here. And
why would you come back?
Yeah, no reason to come back. Will that be one of your great pushes while you're in this program to try to get people to stay, or will it be just the most important part is get your education first, and then if you would like to come back, hopefully maybe you might be that person to start that business or start that industry here?
My philosophy, my guiding principle for the Puente program is get out.
Okay.
Transfer to a 4-year university. Get those 4-year degrees. Pursue a master's. Pursue a doctorate. It's all attainable. You just have to be motivated and have the right attitude about it. And go where you're most needed. And if it's back to your community, then come back. Don't let. I didn't want to come back. I didn't come back out of want. It was necessity. But now that I'm here, I still, is this the place do I want to live in San Jacinto? Probably not. But do I love my job? Do I love my students? Do I love the work that I'm doing in terms of higher education? Most definitely. Most definitely. I guess I just need to find a house elsewhere and commute. I need to do what Dr. Reese did. Live in San Diego and commute here. But that is my guiding. And Ms. Angeles, who's the counselor, and I, we both agree. We are a transfer-bound program. And I know that maybe in the past there were myths about, well, it's only for the Latino students, or it's only for Spanish-speaking students.
Well, I know that's a myth already because I was part of the program.
Yeah,
and although I do have a Spanish name, I did not speak Spanish, and I just thought it was a immersion of learning another culture is one of the things that I grew up on as being in the military and everything else like that, and going from state to state. You learn different cultures, you learn different ways how people do things and everything else. And so I thought of it as a learning ability, because when I first met Dr. Reese and she said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" and I'm like, "Well, I'll be learning English, just like everybody else. Like, yes, but you'll be learning a particular culture and everything else. And I said, how can it hurt me? You know,
Right.
because it's about education, and everything is not done the same way.
Right.
And to learn a different culture is really important. Is if any of your students do get a chance to go over to overseas and everything like that, the first thing you want to do is learn that culture, because it makes it a little bit easier for communication between the two sides and everything else like that. Being in that classroom was something else, and being the only black that was in there was something else, but it was a great learning experience to learn the Mexican culture and different things that were important to the Mexican culture. And so those things that I get to bring up in my kids also.
Yeah, and we really try to emphasize not just the culture, but the literature.
Oh yeah,
the Latino literature is just it's used to leverage the discussions about culture and language and what it means to be an informed citizen, what it means to be part of a community that maybe in the past has been marginalized, and the responsibility. We really try to emphasize the responsibility that is put upon them now that they're in higher ed to really move forward and be those voices for their families, for their communities, for their ancestors, to really represent the positive sides of that community.
One of the things that we talked about when I was part of Destino, and we talked about, I was wondering if you'll be talking about it, is the fact that our racial profile is driving while brown in this particular area and everything else. Will you be discussing anything like that, or the fact that a couple years ago when the Republican Party went after Latinos, and just because they were pro-life, they were just trying to, because most Mexicans were Catholics, that they just went after them to just say be a Republican and vote Republican, and they were the first ones to try to destroy the Mexican way of life, as they're trying to do in Arizona and other states.
In my class, I don't really go into. I mean, we discuss immigration, especially what's happening in Arizona. We talk about that. We do talk about the DREAM Act, California DREAM Act, and the Federal DREAM Act. I try not to bring in obviously I bring in some historical elements, but I try not to focus so much on.
You're saying mostly just like the Zoot Suit Wars?
Yeah, like I don't do any of that.
Oh, you don't do any
the
Zoot Suit Wars,
unless there's an area that I get to in our current, for reading or a discussion, and there needs to be that historical background to truly understand what we're discussing about now.
Okay.
Then I'll bring some stuff in, but I really try to focus it on current issues that are affecting them.
Okay.
Because some of our students, they just don't connect with what happened, in Mecha, or
they don't understand the struggles that they went through.
It's such a different generation.
They don't understand the struggles that the reason they got here is because somebody had to sacrifice themselves to.
We do talk about that, and we do reference it here and there, but I always try to really bring the focus and really shed some light but what's happening today.
Okay.
So that's kind of always been and again, it's because I'm really trying to get them to think about their responsibility as students, and moving into someday you're going to be a citizen who's required to be an advocate for social justice or for some community issue. So in terms of the historical background, I just haven't really spent a whole lot of time on that.
Okay. I can see that, because I said as we know with my with my oldest is that you have an attention span of like 45 seconds
Yeah.
on a particular subject, and that's just about it. And we try to get, understand that you wouldn't be here because if something had not been done before,
Right.
what you
Right.
had to go through and everything else. Do you just particularly stay with San Jacinto High School, or do you go to do you try to get into West Valley or any of the Hemet Unified School District schools?
Well,
If you can.
Yeah, I don't directly go into the schools.
Mm-hmm.
I just get my Puente students are students who have enrolled in the college
Okay.
and are taking.
Oh, and they decide to take this particular
Right.
class because they want something a little bit extra
Right.
in the class.
Right, and
Okay.
most of them know about the program.
Okay.
Some of them come in just because it's a great time,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just needing to take that class.
Okay.
And they don't truly understand that they're in a program, not just an English class.
Right.
So that takes some selling and some
Mm-hmm.
talking to the students, letting them know you're not just in an English 98 class, you're also just signed up for a program.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably why Dr. Reese talked to you in that way, like, well, I understand you need to take English 98, but...
Well, she also knew that I was a black